I'm Liz.
I'm Robbie. Welcome back to our channel, Bookworm Couple. Today we are going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be tier ranking everything that we have read this year. It's over 90 books. You might be asking yourself, how are you possibly going to do this? There are two of you. This is insane. And I agree. However, we have created two tier lists, one for each of us. It's going to be very exciting. So first one over here, this one is mine. You can see some of the books that I've read this year. And then this one is Liz's. We're going to try and go...
Hilarious. You can just see the color schemes.
Yes, that's actually true. That's a really good point. Anyway, we are going to try and go kind of by series, generally in the order that we read them this year. There's nothing scientific about this. We have never done anything like this before, so we're just doing our best. And all of these are kind of off the cuff how we feel about them now. I have barely gone back and looked through what I read this year, so this is actually going to be really fun.
But yeah, it's going to be like, do I remember what happened in this book?
Yeah, I know. So we'll see. Yeah. But anyway, and also you can see this is a slightly different setup for us, just so that we could do this without constantly looking very far down.
Welcome to our living room.
Welcome to our living room. I hope you like the festive...
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. And okay, so I think that we should go ahead and jump right in. I would normally say ladies first, but I do think I have more books than you.
You have 1,000 books, yeah, so go.
So I think I'm actually going to start first. So the first two books that I read this year were the last two books in Malazan Book of the Fallen by Stephen Erickson. I'm not going to go over what each book is about because that would be I couldn't do that without spoiling things. So first with Dust of Dreams, I think I might get some flack for this, but I'm actually going to put this as tier. So I really like this book. It's kind of like the first part of what was supposed to be one big book. These two books were supposed to be together, but then they would have been like 2,000 pages long.
That's nice. Insane. We like that.
And so, there are parts of it that I really don't like, but it also has some really incredible battle sequences, as well as some very hilarious characters meeting up for the first time in what is a hilarious scene. Anyway, so if you've read it, you'll know what I'm talking about, and then I'll put Crippled God, and spoiler alert, that may stay there for the rest of the time. I really, really loved... Malazan Book of the Fallen. If you have heard of Malazan Book of the Fallen, or if you haven't, it's a very long, very complex, possibly the most complex fantasy series I've ever read. It has really stuck with me in a way that I didn't necessarily expect, and it's easily one of my top 10 favorite series, possibly my favorite series of all time. It's very good. I highly recommend it. It's not always fun to read, and it's never easy to read, but it is very worth it, in my opinion.
Are you going to make me read it on the channel?
If we go long enough that I make you read Malazan Book of the Fallen, I will count it as a huge success. Right. I know you will hate it.
Great. Cool.
So not anytime soon. All right, you're up.
All right, my turn.
You should highlight your different tiers.
Oh, yeah. So
mine are very basic.
Robbie's tiers are very basic. Mine are more nuanced because I have a very hard time. As you've seen, if you've watched any of our videos, I struggle to rate things because I feel like it's a very nuanced process, and my feeling about it changes throughout the books and throughout days. So I made mine a little bit more nuanced. Should I go through them all?
Yeah, go for it. You can go to town.
We'll do a quickie. So my top tier is Obsessed. I'm super obsessed with it. I was gonna make it greatest books of all time, but I don't think I've read any of the greatest books of all time in my personal opinion.
That's up to you.
This year. No, I know, but
sure. I understand.
So there's nothing in this in my memory. So we had Obsessed, and then Obsessed, and then Please Read This, which is a very high recommendation of mine. Then we go to not favorite, but I would recommend it. So a good read. Maybe just not for me. Sexy but not amazing, because I read a lot of romance books, and so a lot of them are sexy but not amazing. And then meh, just not my favorite. Probably wouldn't recommend it. So I'm going to start with, I read the Selection series at the beginning of last year. I was in a reading rut at the beginning of last year, and I went to a friend's Instagram to see what they recommended, and they recommended the Selection series. It's kind of like Hunger Games meets The Bachelorette, which I loved. I thought the premise was really fun. I would rate the first... Now I gotta remember how I feel about these books. This is the hard
It's gonna be really hard when... I have a 12-book series coming up.
Yeah, no. These ones I've obviously read a year ago, so...
That's the fun bit.
I'm gonna do it real quick because... Oh, no.
I'm gonna remind you.
Yeah, okay, so I do the
thumb. There we go. Proud of you.
Okay, cool. So I would... yeah, I think the first one, not exactly my favorite, but I was intrigued enough to continue reading. The second one I really enjoyed. I feel like that happens a lot in series. In the beginning is you get that first one to kind of get to know the characters, get to know the story, and then the second one it really, really lays in. The finale, oh gosh. I feel like
That's not the finale. That's the third.
No. Well, so it's technically split. So it's technically this is a spoiler. I
then
guess.
don't say it.
I can't really say
Okay,
it's a spoiler,
fine.
but
That's
it's
cool.
split into two
Great.
times.
Great.
Different times. So the end of this first trilogy, I really liked it.
Great.
I would definitely. This is where I want to put it, but I want to give it a higher rating because I feel like I should. But this
You
is where
can
I
put
want
it
to
in front of the selection.
No, I
No?
don't
You
think
like
it
the
would
selection
go
better?
in front of the
Okay.
selection because the selection brings you into the world, and I really like the world.
Cool.
Well, since these are separate, should I rate them together? With this one, do you think? Since this is like technically, yeah, we're gonna do that.
I have no idea what you're saying.
Doesn't matter. Okay, so then we skip some years. That's all I can say. That's not a spoiler.
Okay.
Skip
Time
some
skip.
years,
We love
and
time
then
skip.
we have 2 books. I thought this was really interesting. I really liked the main character in this. I would definitely put this. I think I potentially enjoyed parts of this more than the first part of the series. This is funny
Alright,
because I
okay.
don't remember a whole lot. And then I liked the ending of this series, but I didn't absolutely love it. It was good,
Not great.
not great.
All right.
I don't know that I can give it sexy but not amazing, but actually, I don't know. This is where we're at.
Okay.
This feels a lot of pressure now.
I know. Yes, very scientific, obviously.
Obviously, as you can see, my mind is scientific ratings.
All right. The next few books I read were the last 3 books in the Novels of the Malazan Empire, which is another series set in the Malazan world. This is by a different author named Ian C. Esselmont. I liked these books. I didn't love them. I didn't think any of them reached the incredible highs of Stephen Erickson's writing, but it's essentially a 6-book series, and all 6 of these books take place at the same time as the 10 books in Malazan Book of the Fallen, just in different parts of the world on different continents. Some characters come in and out, some story beats happen that reference the other ones, but it's not necessary to understand either, really. In most cases, there's 1 or 2 big exceptions. Anyway, so the first, which is the third in the series, is Orb Scepter Throne. I think I'm going to put this at a B. I really like the Darujistan crew. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but I like all the characters in it. I just didn't... And the Segular in this too, and it just didn't get where I wanted it to go. Oh, these are actually in the wrong order. So, Blood and Bone. This was probably my most disappointing read of the year. I'm going to put this at a D. I gave this a 2. I thought it was really slow, and I thought it was really, really hard to understand, and that's saying a lot after I had already read most of or all of the full Malazan Book of the Fallen and 4 other books by Esselmont in this same world. All the books are very confusing, but I was just like, I'm so far into this. How am I so lost reading this? It just was not my favorite. And then Assail. I thought that this book had a really hard... this book had a lot to live up to. There was a very big secret that is supposed to be revealed, and it's kind of been set throughout the entire 6-book novels of the Malazan Empire. And this does the best I think it could have on delivering with that. I'm going to put this at an A. I think it's probably going to be a pretty low A by the end, but I did like it, and I thought it was a strong wrap-up for that series. Nice. And now we're back to Liz.
It's me!
Oh, this is I think a solo one.
Yes, this is actually The Stolen Heir by Hallie Black is in... I'm not sure if it's going to be its own series, but it is a part of the Cruel Prince world. I really enjoyed the Cruel Prince books. I thought they were very weird. I also thought this was very weird. But I enjoy weird, so to me that gives it a pretty high rating.
Okay.
Because I love the world. It's very legendary fae. And so any of the legends you've heard about fae creatures, that's this. It's very
cool.
More of a dark fantasy. Not dark, but more dark than what I normally read, which I really enjoyed about the trilogy before this, and that's why I really, really loved it. This was way weirder, but and I didn't love it as much as I loved those ones, but it was weird enough that I'm like, yeah.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right.
Okay, next.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to start catching up with you, because I read the Cradle series by Will White. It is a progression fantasy self-published series. I had never read progression fantasy before. I don't even know if I'd read anything specifically self-published. But progression fantasy, I always kind of liken it to anime and stuff. It's essentially I heard someone recently say it's like the guy version of like fast food fantasy, like romantasy. It's like what guys like.
Great.
And that's not entirely wrong, though I do also, it turns out, kind of like romantasy as well. But it's essentially, it follows a character or characters. Usually there's like a crew. There's like one main character, and then they have like at least 2 sidekicks. Usually the main character is a young man, and then there's a woman who is in the crew, and then there's one other young man who is also like a lot of times much more powerful than the original young man. He's also very emo.
Threatening.
Yeah. Anyway, and it's essentially it's about a character who, and this is still just progression fantasy in general.
Okay, yes. So you could.
I'm going to start going
with your series.
because I'm just going to talk about it while I'm rating these, and this is crazy. So
there's so many. So.
Yeah, basically all of them. So I'm going to do my best.
You got it.
Actually, I'm going to move this down to here, top of B. Come on.
I think I'm going to have to make some adjustments.
Most of these get better as they went on.
Sure,
from what I remember, Skysworn. Actually, I liked Black Flame more than Skysworn. Ghost Order. Anyway, this particular series follows a character named Wei Shi Linden as he essentially gains power, and that's the whole thing about progression fantasy. There's lots of training montages. Usually, there's some tournaments. You gain a lot of power. It's a very cool world. Will White actually just announced. Actually, I like Ghostwater. Underlord is great, and it was around here that I stopped being so snooty about giving things 5 stars. Up until this point, I was like, I can't give any of these 5 stars. They're not like the best books ever written. And then I started realizing I was reading all of them in a single day. And so, like, you know,
that's pretty.
I was just like, I must love these. This must be a 5 for me.
Yes.
And so I'm actually going to start putting Uncrowned. Oh, man, this feels like sacrilegious, but I'm going to do it anyway. Oh, man. Winter Steel is really good. Bloodline is good too. This is going to be kind of controversial. I didn't actually like Reaper that much. I know there's a huge twist in it, but it was a twist that I kind of guessed and was afraid of because it made one of my favorite character in the series leave for a while, and that was a big bummer. I thought Dread God was also down here, and
with a name like Dread God, how can you expect
that? Actually, I'm changing my mind. Dread God's going to go up there, and Waybound's going to stay up there. Anyway, it's a story about a character who is fighting to gain power. Essentially, I don't want to go into any spoilers. If you like progression fantasy, if you like anime-inspired fantasy, you should really, really check it out. And the author, Will White, just announced that he's going to be starting a Kickstarter to try and get it animated, which is very, very exciting. Should be launching, I think, sometime in January. So it's a really, really great time to jump into this. And progression fantasy is, like, a big deal right now. And yeah, one day I will probably have you read these, because I would be really interested to see what your reaction to this kind of stuff is.
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm very curious about it.
All right, back to you.
Okay, I have to make some adjustments because I realized I was being a little bit too nice, because I'm now looking at these other books that I read and I'm like, they're not on the same level as these ones. So I'm gonna move all these. I'm gonna move them. Yeah. Because,
all of them?
Yeah, because I gotta be honest with myself.
Okay.
And that is definitely
You're moving everything down one tier?
It's okay. It's fine. Because I didn't think big picture when I started this. And now I'm thinking big picture.
Dang. Okay.
I get nervous, I don't want to make any of the books sad. And sometimes you gotta make some of the books sad. And that's why I picked the tiers that I did.
Okay.
You love me so much.
I do.
Okay, so these next 2 books are a part of a trilogy that is a prequel to the Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I really loved that series. I loved this prequel series even more. So this first book was actually a reread for me because I wanted to reread it before I read the second one. I read it in like a day or 2 because I'm absolutely obsessed with it. It's one of my favorites probably ever. Getting there.
Dang.
One of them, I think I would rate the second one right up there as well, mainly because of the world. The book, I don't feel like was necessarily as good. Oh, this is so hard. Yeah, no, I'm rank it second. Yeah. I feel good about that.
Okay, great. All right, now something much shorter. Oh, right. Oh, these are in the wrong order too, man. I uploaded this poorly. Anyway, that's totally fine. So the next is the Greenbone Saga. Look into my eyes. I know our faces are very small, but look into my eyes. If you take nothing else out of this video, please go read this series. It is so unbelievably good. I've also not cried that hard in a long time. Anyway, so all of these are S's, and each one is better than the last.
Wow.
Yeah, this entire... Oops, that's not right. No.
Okay.
This entire series is incredible. It's like The Godfather set in a fantasy Japan. That's really the entire thing. You follow the Call family,
specific.
and they are... Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into any more detail, but you follow the Call family over the course of a pretty decent amount of time. There are some decently sized time skips, and they are essentially kind of like a crime family. But the crime families essentially run the country, or they have a very big part in running the country. So, yeah, I really, really highly recommend. It is wonderful.
Wow. Look at him go.
All right.
What's next? Okay, this is a trilogy I thought I was going to be obsessed with. I was not. Yeah. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the world. This is the Caraval trilogy. I enjoyed the world a lot, but I found the characters frustrating. So, I think for me, the first one was definitely, do I rate it in that? Am I that mean about it? Yeah, because to be honest,
okay, the book won't be sad.
I know, this is my problem. I do have a problem in which I have a hard time if I'm in a series not finishing the series, even if I don't really like what I'm reading, because I want to know how it ends.
Mm-hmm.
And with this one, the first one, I just really didn't like. But I did like the second and third a lot, because I liked the switch in POV characters. I thought it was fun, and I thought the way that it unraveled was interesting. Again, sexy, but not amazing, in my personal opinion.
Wow, pretty low rating for the whole thing. I'm surprised you finished it.
Well, see, that's my thing.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I do.
All right. Let's see what's next. Ooh, okay, fun. The Faithful and the Fallen series by John Gwynne. This is a kind of classic fantasy series. Not actually written in that time, but it's written in that tone. So it's kind of a classic fantasy series with a very modern tone, very fun take on the Chosen One trope that I really like. And I really, really loved this series. I'm just going to put that up there. I think all of these books essentially got better than the last. Actually, that's not true. This is probably one of my most unpopular opinions, but I actually didn't like Ruin that much. I'm going to put it below a sale. Part of that is because there is something huge that happens in that book that was spoiled for me. So, I don't know. There's maybe my opinion would have been different. And then Wrath is very, very good. I might even put it above Jade City. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I highly recommend this series. John Gwynne, this is the first series he wrote, which is incredible because his prose in it is so good. And just the story in general is so well told. The changes to the form that he does, the things that he does with the Chosen One trope that he used in this are very interesting. The characters are well realized. The pace is breakneck. It's kind of crazy, and he writes some of the best battle sequences in the business. Personally, I think that's partially because you can really understand what's happening. You know, there's a lot of authors that I've read that write amazing battle sequences, but you can't always actually follow everything that's happening.
Yeah.
But that is not the case with John Gwynne. You can really visualize the entire battle in your mind. It is very impressive. So if you're looking for some sort of classic fantasy with a modern take on it and some fun changes to the Chosen One trope, I highly, highly recommend this. All you.
My turn. Okay, so now we have the Touch of Darkness series. This is a modern telling of Hades and Persephone, which, sign me up for any of that. Great. I'm all for a modern retelling of like legendary stories. That is my vibe. That is my jam. These books were very sexy, which I very much enjoy. I love a sexy book. I love a spicy book. They are very, very spicy. The first one, I would give it a please read this, because I did really enjoy it, and I loved the world. I liked the depiction of Hades. It's definitely very different than normal, than you normally get Hades, obviously, because this is a romance book. So, you get a little bit of enemies to lovers.
Mm-hmm.
It's no spoiler
Anemones
because we know Hades and the story of Hades and Persephone. Okay, and this is a really hot take and a very specific one. I absolutely hated the second book.
Whoa! No
Hated
way.
the second book. It was really weird because I really loved Persephone in the first one, and there was this weird flip that the way that she handled things that I just couldn't stand. And this is when I thought about putting it down many times, and I made it through. Girl, I made it through. It was hard. It just was weird. It felt like it wasn't the same person. It felt like it wasn't the same character. It was like all of a sudden this weird like jealousy and suspicion. Like in every text, it got very monotonous. I will also say I think because the spice starts in the first one, they got very monotonous in this one as well, which was kind of a bummer. I still enjoyed it, but And then the third one, there's going to be a fourth. I'm not sure how many are in total, but I know there's going to be a fourth. The third one I liked. I enjoyed it a lot.
Fascinating.
I would definitely put it... I'm like, what happened in this one? I think I'm going to put it here. Not my favorite, but obviously read it as part of the series. You may not have the reaction to the second one that I did because it irked me on a personal level more of than like on a reader level, so other people might not feel the way. But I think the series, where the series is going, is really interesting. The world is really fun. The magic is really fun. So I'm intrigued. I was intrigued enough by the third book to want to read the fourth. So
very good.
Who would have thought a trilogy would be that split up? This is hard to do in the moment.
It is very hard. Oh, so this is a one-off for me. I forgot I had read this until I was putting these tier lists together.
It looks really cute.
It's a comic called Nimona. Actually, there was an adaptation released on Netflix earlier this year, which was very, very good. You should check it out if you haven't. And this was really fun. I think here. I really liked it. But it's not the most amazing thing I ever read. I just heard that it was very good, and it was really fun. If you're looking for something light and looking for some kind of comic, highly recommend. It's about a girl in a kind of fantasy world, and she can shapeshift, and she is looking for a villain to be their apprentice. Essentially, that's kind of the setup.
Fun.
It's very funny.
That sounds very fun.
It's also very emotional and poignant.
Oh.
It's very good.
I love that.
Liked it a lot.
Okay.
That's just a one-off for me. So what's next for you?
Oh, okay. I love this series so much. This was, I'd been looking for, I felt like the beginning of my year last year was kind of like filler reads. I don't know. It was just like reading things that people had recommended, reading series, and I hadn't really had anything beyond the Soul of Blood and whatever it's called. Shadow in the Ember. There it is.
Okay.
There was nothing that I had read that I had felt really excited about, and these books were the first books that I really was excited about. I absolutely devoured this first one, The Serpent and the Wings of the Night. Oh boy, is that a mouthful to say.
What a great title.
It starts with it's a world of vampires. Great. Sign me up.
Cool.
I'm
Everyone's
super,
a vampire?
I'm super ready for it. No.
Oh, okay, but they exist.
But they exist in this world, sort of similar to the Blood and Ash series, but different. Which I also love. OG Twilight Girl, love a vampire situation. I'm loving seeing how vampire books are evolving and how, even to the down of like the science of like where they come from, who they are, the different sects of them, the different, situations. I really, really, really loved this series. I think there's going to be another one. I don't really know. All these things are in my head and they go away. The first one was really interesting. It was a very, hate to always bring it back to this, very Hunger Games-esque of like, you are fighting to be the chosen one type of a situation. You're fighting for power. Excuse me. You're fighting for like the blessing of one of their gods. And the main character is a female and one of the only females in this fight. So I was obviously immediately in.
Yeah.
Not a vampire. Also, the vampires in the series have wings. We love wings. So
do we?
I think we do. We do love wings.
I haven't learned that yet.
There.
Apparently I'll learn that
You'll
eventually.
get there.
Better than... Yeah? Wow. Or would you put it at the top of Please Read This?
Oh, yeah, I forget I can do that.
Yes, you can do that.
I think I would do that.
Yeah, there you go.
I remember, again, it's hard to remember these. I gotta move that too then. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Wait, did you mean to move this over one?
Yeah. There we go.
There you go.
Okay. I like this one not as much. These books are very spicy. We love a spice. We love a vampire. I enjoyed him. I'm very intrigued to continue on in this world if we do. I'm not sure if we will.
Got it. All right. Let's see. What do I have next? Okay, so this is of Blood and Bone. It is the sequel series to The Faithful and the Fallen, which I spoke about just minutes ago, also by John Gwynne. I hesitate to honestly call this a sequel series. It just continues the story of The Faithful and the Fallen. So if you've read The Faithful and the Fallen and you have not read of Blood and Bone, I would honestly go so far as to say you haven't actually finished this series or the story, because it just continues. I think it's about a 120-year time jump.
I thought you were going to say 120 books.
No. I mean, that'd be great.
That'd be so many books.
But it's like a 120-year time jump, and the story continues. The first book is a lot of setup. It is, because it's introducing a lot of new characters, and some ones you've already met before, but and this is maybe an unpopular opinion, I actually liked this series more than The Faithful and the Fallen. I think I think all three of them are S-tier books. I really enjoyed this, because as well as Gwyn did with the... Where do I want to put this? You don't put that in front of Valorant. I want to put this in front of... Yes, actually. Gwyn... as well as Gwyn did with the changes to the Chosen One trope that he did in the Faithful and the Fallen series, once he's, kind of on his own and doing his own thing, I felt that he really just took off and ran with it. It was really, really good. So yeah, I loved Blood and Bone. So, all right. Big fan.
I like the name.
Yes, it's a cool name, isn't it?
It is a cool name. Okay. Can I rate these two? Yeah, I'm going to rate these two together.
Yeah.
These two were not a set, but I read them during Pride Month. These are the first queer love romance books. Love romance?
I love romance.
I do love romance. These are the first queer romance books that I have ever read, and I had a grand old time. I thought they were really, really fun. I definitely want to incorporate more of this into my reading docket, is the word that comes to mind.
Sure.
I'm tired. Anyways, I definitely want to include more in this vibe. This first one I had seen at an airport, and I was like, this sounds like something I would like. And so I got it from the library, and I really enjoyed it. I will say it wasn't my favorite, but I would definitely recommend it. I enjoyed the characters. I liked the character whose POV we got for the book. I thought that they were very different than most main love interest characters that I had, and I really liked that. I loved being in their head. I really enjoyed it. I thought the author did a lovely job. Stars Collide, I am definitely going to rate this higher because I really enjoyed it. I think part of it was because they were performers, and you can't, I'm a stage girl at the end of the day, and so the imagery of being on a stage, they're both, essentially there's an older woman who is a Grammy Award winner, had just gone through a divorce, and then this younger woman who is an up-and-coming star. They go on tour together. I don't know how to say fall in love, but spoiler alert. Stop being mean to me. I really enjoyed this. I thought their love story was great. I thought the two main characters were so diverse, and the way that they came together was really beautiful. The delve into past and discovery of who they are and their sexuality, I thought was really beautiful. I cried. I cried a lot in this book, and I loved it. And it's just a one-off. It was an easy, cute romance that made you cry. I loved it.
Cute. Let's see what I have next. Right, okay, so I caught up on some of my Brandon Sanderson reading. So I reread Oathbringer, and this is... Oh, man, this is tough. This is one of my favorite books ever. I love Stormlight Archive. It's probably my favorite series currently being written. Yeah, that feels right. Let's see. And then I read Dawn Shard for the first time, which is a novella between the third and fourth books, and it feels like it wants to go there. Yes. And then last I read Rhythm of War, which was my first time reading it, and I did really enjoy it, but it is actually the first Stormlight Archive book that I didn't give 5 stars to, which was a bit disappointing, but it was still really good, and I really still cannot wait for Wind and Truth, which is coming out in December of next year. And eventually I will have you read the series, because it's unbelievably
You've been talking
good.
to me about
I love
Brandon
it
Sanderson
so,
for a very long time.
So much. And I want any excuse to talk about these books that I can possibly get.
Great, I'm intrigued.
Right.
Let's go.
All you.
Oh, this, remembering all these as we go. So these next two books were my first Colleen Hoover books. I had bought the first when I was on vacation and forgot to bring a book for the plane ride. And I had to have a book for the plane ride.
Got it.
And I know people recommend Colleen Hoover if you like romance, so I picked it up. This is, how do I explain this? So It Ends With Us came out first, and then the fan base was kind of like, we want more. And so then It Starts With Us came out. So they kind of
cute.
they both tie into one story, but they're both same characters, but they both deal with a different, like, closure. So it's kind of like It Ends With Us is closing this particular chapter in a person's life, and then It Starts With Us is starting a new one, which I thought was really beautiful and really well done. The first one,
What was that sound?
It's my thinking sound.
I've never heard you do that before.
It is right now. Oh, this is hard because
you can also go up in the tier list.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I forget that. I do forget that. No, okay, hold on. Well, let's adjust real quick.
Man. This is very professional.
I am not professional. I'm chaos. Welcome. This one, the first one, I really enjoyed it. It made me cry, but I didn't love it as much. I assumed because I know that Colleen Hoover is so popular that I was going to absolutely love it. It's just not my favorite type of love story. I think I really like a fantasy world. This dealt with a lot of really, really intense, mature themes, violence, abuse, and all of that. That's enough. So it was hard to read at times, which, you know, sometimes you gotta put yourself through it. But it wasn't, so it was not an easy breezy romance. It was definitely a more reality sad story, but there is romance in it. I thought It Starts With Us. I would definitely put, yeah. I liked this one. I didn't love it. That's all I got.
All right, okay.
It was nice to see the characters move forward.
Very good.
I'm so bad at this.
No, you're great. You're doing awesome.
You're nice.
All right, so next I read the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. This is... how to describe Broken Earth? It's one of the only series ever that won, I think, all 3, like, Locus Awards or, like, Fantasy Awards. I'm not sure exactly. These books won a lot of awards. They're very good. They are incredibly stylized and specific. I feel like it's not a weird thing to say that I think that they're pretty divisive. You're either going to really like them or you're really going to hate them. Mm-hmm. Partially because they're written in, I think it's the second person, which is really tough. I think I'm going to give the first one here. This was such a weird thing when I read it, and it was so hard to rate, because it's something I think everyone should at least try to read, because it's different, and it's new, and it's unique, and that is, I think, really important, especially in, like, this genre, which there's a lot of things that are very similar, and so anything that's like a challenge to the form, I think, is worth celebrating and worth trying out. But I also don't think it's going to be for everyone. It is essentially a story, kind of fantasy, kind of sci-fi-y, that is set on a planet where they have a 5th season that they call they call the 5th season Death, and essentially it's a world that has so many natural disasters that essentially reset society over and over and over again. And that's the premise, and it follows a mother and a daughter, and there are some really huge twists that I really can't say much without spoiling stuff. But once I got over the second person perspective, I started enjoying the series a lot more. And I'm gonna put Obelisk Gate.
I like that name.
Up at the top of B, actually, and then this series nails the ending in a way that few series I have read have really done, and so I'm actually going to throw the Stone Sky pretty high up there. yeah, it's a series that I would recommend to everyone, knowing that there may be people who just really cannot get into it, and that's okay. I think it's still worth at least trying to read the 5th season. It's just, it'll be different than anything else you've read. I can guarantee that.
Sounds cool. Sounds scary. Okay, now we got a classic Emily Henry book.
I don't know who that is.
She's a romance writer.
Great.
I actually think you would enjoy her books. They're
Cool.
all one-offs, though, which I know you don't like. I don't really love one-offs. I prefer a series if I can. But this one, excuse me, I read for the first time Emily Henry books last year, and I absolutely loved them. This one was about a relationship kind of coming to an end. It said Maine, which I love Maine so much. I thought the friend group was delightful. It was enjoyable. It was definitely not my favorite, but I would recommend it.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Oh, okay. So now I'm getting into stuff that we've done. Okay, so Throne of Glass. All right. You know, check out our videos for any of these. We've done videos for Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and Assassin's Blade. How to do this? I'm gonna put this here. I thought it was an okay start.
Yeah, fair.
But not my favorite. Crown of Midnight. You know what? I might throw this at the bottom of A. I think I might have overestimated how much I really enjoyed this book because of how much of a huge step up I thought it was from the first one. But that's how I feel right now, and that's what I did give it 4 stars. That's how I'm going to put it. Anyway, for those of you who are unaware, if any of you are watching this video, Throne of Glass follows the story of Celaena Sardothien, probably butchered that pronunciation, and she is a very famous assassin, and she... there's a lot of things. This is her tale. I can't. Spoilers.
Fancy.
And then this was one of my least favorite reads of the year, and I'm actually going to put it ahead of Blood and Bone. I really didn't like Blood and Bone.
That's okay.
All right.
Okay. So the next one is the Chase and Elle Kennedy book. If you've ever read if you are into hockey romance, then you've read Elle Kennedy, 100%. I love a hockey romance novel. I love that it's having a moment. I love that this is a big niche because how fun and interesting. I think I would rate pretty much all of these books. And because I've read the rest of this series, there's the, what's the name of the series? There's one series and then there's
You can do it. I believe in you.
Redo. Okay.
You got it.
So there are 2 different series in this world that follow a different character or pair of characters in each book. That's how they've gone thus far. I definitely enjoy them, but the writing, in my personal opinion, is not great. They are there for the sexiness. So definitely I came up with sexy but not amazing,
This was what you were thinking about?
This is exactly what I was thinking about. I was thinking about hockey romance books. Which there's also a part of me that wants to put
this is those ones, the hockey ones.
Yeah.
Sure, why don't you tell me about these?
So they're smutty, and which I love a smutty book, but there's not a whole lot of depth to them. I enjoy the characters. I think her character descriptions are fun. I think the sex scenes are very fun. There's a part of me, I rate it in sexy but not amazing, but I also recommend them. If you like an easy to read romance that's kind of you don't have to think about it, get an Elle Kennedy book.
Okay. Great. Oh, I'm on
look
these
at you
now.
go.
Look at me go. Okay, Percy Jackson.
PJ.
Yeah, this was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Joel Smith. Better than Joel Smith. That's kind of sworn. I don't know if I like this better than Ghostwater. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. That feels right. Right in the middle of A. That feels good. This, I also gave a 4. I might put this... Where do I want to put this? This is tough. For those of you who are unaware, we are also making videos about the Percy Jackson series currently, as I am rereading them and Liz is reading them for the first time. They follow the story of
Percy Jackson.
the Percy Jackson, who is a demigod. He is a son of
A god.
A god. Don't want to spoil anything, though I feel like most people know at this point. There's also a great series on Disney Plus that's happening right now. We're also making videos about that, so you should check those out too.
Very exciting.
But yeah, we are really enjoying our read of this right now. And where do I want to put The Titan's Curse, which is apparently everyone's favorite and wasn't mine.
I am shocked.
So,
Why? I didn't dislike it, but it wasn't my favorite.
Where do I want to put you? Titan's Curse. I'm going to put you, yeah, above Dawnshard. That feels good. Okay.
My turn. I have a few one-offs here. I read this summer I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. As a woman who wanted to be an actress and was in the theater industry for most of my young adult to adult life, I really related to this one. It was very hard to read. There are some very mature themes. There are a lot of intense depictions of mental health struggles and physical health struggles, eating disorders, XYZ. I don't know how someone would feel about it if they hadn't been in the industry. For me, it felt very healing to read through it as a person who has been in the industry in which they are the art, their body is a part of the art, dealing with people around them. Obviously, it's a lot about family and a lot about a very codependent mother, but I thought it was beautiful, incredibly sad. I felt very uncomfortable. I cried, but I feel like it's a necessary read. Again, I don't know if it's for you if you are not someone who has been involved in a creative industry in any way. I think it might lose its oomph if you are not. For me, that was what made it so poignant, and to go through her struggles and journey with her felt very healing.
All right.
So yeah, read it.
Read it. All right, so the next I had was 5 Warrior Angels by Brian Lee Durfee. This is a epic Grimdark, essentially Grimdark fantasy series. It is very dark. If you like your fantasy dark and your character's morally gray at best, this is for you. Very heavy religious themings that I really enjoyed. Again, also some very fun and interesting takes on the prophecy and chosen one tropes as well. I'm gonna put this up here. These books were good.
I really loved them.
I really did.
All those books.
Yes, I think there. And then Lonesome Crown is definitely was a 5 stars for me, and I think I'm gonna put it right there. I really liked all these books. They're very, very good. If you like dark fantasy, highly recommend you check them out. It has like no ratings on Goodreads, like a few thousand. This series deserves a lot more love, so check it out if you have the inclination.
It scares me a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think it's not for you. You should not read it. You would hate it.
That's okay. Alright, now this is right before we really get into our channel videos? Channel reads.
Reads for you.
Channel reads for me. I read Nora Roberts' book. This was the finale in a trilogy. She writes a lot of trilogies. I've read a ton of Nora Roberts. I enjoy Nora Roberts so much. Very easy reads. I think her fantasy romance books, they're some of the first fantasy romance books that I had read. Not the most intense within world building. This was not my favorite series of hers, but I was really thrilled that she had another fantasy series for me to read. This was the closing chapter. Definitely was not my favorite, but I would always recommend Nora Roberts because I enjoy her writing a lot. Very easy romances, and I think her romance writing is great, and I like to see her expand into the fantasy world more because I think she's very good at writing it. I think she's been very well known for a cheesy romance novel for a very long time, and she writes them well, but it's fun to see her get into the fantasy world because I think she's good at it, and I enjoy it.
Awesome. Okay. What did I read next? Okay, here we go. The Empyrean by Rebecca Yarros. Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Fourth Wing, if you're one of the only people who reads fantasy books that doesn't know, is a dragon fantasy series with a decent amount of spice, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
I would be... Oh, that's completely wrong. What happened there? Took Dawnshard completely out of it. That's a shame. Here we go. Where am I gonna put you, Fourth Wing? I feel like I'd be lying if I liked the Fourth Wing. I did. I found it to be extremely entertaining. It Sorry, our neighbors are doing
They're scooting,
squats
moving
or
and grooving.
something.
Bowling, the classic.
Bowling, yes. Iron Flame, my least favorite read of the year. I really didn't like this book. This series, I think, went super downhill. Unfortunately, the second book just came out a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's November,
just
I think.
weeks at this point.
Just weeks ago. And I just think it really did not... it was not it. I just did not like it at all. I really didn't enjoy my time with it. I thought it felt rushed. That's really what most of my problems came down to. But that's just how I felt.
And look at me, being right
Oh,
lined
and
up.
well, I didn't even need to do that. Who knew that was going to happen? That's great.
I love a dragon book. I love a romance book. I absolutely devoured this first book. I loved it. I was obsessed with it. I think I read it in 48 hours or less. Loved it. This is going to be the craziest complete...
Are you going to put it at the bottom
Yes,
too? No way. I didn't think you didn't like it that much.
It was one of those things that I am so enthralled with the world, and I basically am always going to finish a series if I'm in a series. I'm intrigued by more of this, but I didn't... I enjoyed reading it, but I disliked it more than I enjoyed reading it. I disliked a lot of the...
Yes, I understand. I got there. It took me a second, but I
things
got there.
within the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly similar to the second book in the Touch of Darkness series, where it was like a flip with the character of like, all of a sudden, I felt like I didn't know who she was. We have a whole video on it. Go watch it. We have a lot of opinions. I am shocked that I loved the first one so much and disliked the second one so much, but if I'm being honest, that's how I felt.
All right. Okay. Oh, right. So I put the two Discworld books I read this year together. I had never read any Discworld books before, so this was my first time dipping my toe into that world. These are by Terry Pratchett. It's a, 40-something book series, I think, of loosely connected books, some more connected than others, of satire fantasy. Guards follows the guards of the night guard of a city, and I really enjoyed this book. I actually think I'm going to put it in front of that. I had never read anything by Terry Pratchett before. I had never read anything quite like this, and if you're looking for something light, I find these to be like the perfect thing to read in between longer series sometimes. It's just a great palate cleanser, and it's a lot of fun. And the second Discworld book I read was entirely unrelated to the first, and it's called Mort, and it follows the metaphysical manifestation of death, the Grim Reaper himself, taking an apprentice, who is a young man named Mort. And I liked this. I didn't love it as much as I loved Guards, but it's still pretty high up there. That feels good. That feels good to me. All right.
Look at that.
Oh, here you go, Percy Jackson.
I'm on to the Percy Jackson series. I was delighted by the series. It's one that I've pretty much always wanted to read, but just have never read, and it's fun to be reading it in my adult life. Okay. I love Percy. I love the world. Like I said, if you give me...
You like Sea of Monsters more?
I did. I like Sea of Monsters more.
I forgot that. We have videos of these as well, if you'd like to check them out, if you have not already.
I'm probably going to put this here. Hold on. I got to do some rearranging.
I love that you do this every 5 minutes.
I forget that I can. I forget that I'm allowed to.
Yeah, okay.
And then Titan's Curse, I think... No. I'm into this. There we go. This was... Yeah. My favorite, but would recommend... Not my favorite, but would recommend it, obviously, finishing the series. I'm enjoying the series a lot. Just wasn't my favorite of the three of them, but I'm enjoying the world so far, and I'm excited to be in it some more.
Alright, so this is the first year I started reading Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. The first trilogy in this multi-series world is called the Farseer Trilogy. It follows Fitzchivalry Farseer, who is the bastard son of essentially the prince, and the trilogy kind of covers his childhood into being a young man, and it's unbelievably good. It is probably the best character-focused fantasy I have ever read.
Wow.
Robin Hobb's prose is unbelievable, and all of these are, well, not all of these, but she's one of my favorite authors of all time, easy now, and I just absolutely adore these books and the characters, and I cannot wait to get into them more. I'm going to leave that. That's definitely 5 stars. This is also 5 stars and feels like it wants to be right there. No, I changed my mind. It wants to be right there.
Yeah, it does.
And then Assassin's Quest was a bit of a disappointment, which is the final book in this first trilogy. It just... Robin Hobb is known for having very slow-paced books, and this just, I feel like, dragged it out to an unbelievable extent. And so the payoff was very good, but it just took such a long time getting there. And actually, I'm going to put this pretty low in B. It's not my favorite.
All right.
Oh, Wheel of Time. Here we go. This will be fun.
Here we go. I've started to read the Wheel of Time series. We have a bunch of videos about it. One of Robbie's favorite series of all time. He's been wanting me to read it for years, so Here we are. We're finally doing it. I was very intimidated by the series at first because, as you can see by my very pink and pastel situation here,
it's a lot of blues and
a
reds.
lot of blues and like cutesy. More so, I definitely love a fantasy romance. I'm not necessarily a fantasy schmantasy. I think that I would rate the first one. Yeah, okay,
sure, that's fine.
I think that's probably... No, Great Hunt's definitely have to be.
I was going to say, do you like this? Yeah, I was like, further down, sure.
Yeah, further down.
Okay.
And then Dragon Reborn, I absolutely love.
Oh man, I can't believe you're obsessed with it.
I enjoyed my time in it so much. This was when I really felt like the crew, the characters, the vibe, the storytelling really expanded and my mind expanded. I felt like I kind of understood the world a bit better. I understood Robert Jordan's writing a lot better, which was my struggle with the first two, is how, heavy it was and how things switched a lot. But I really got into a vibe with it in the Dragon Reborn, and we focused on a lot of my favorite characters.
That's true.
I just am very intrigued by what's going to happen next. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a fantastic book.
Love that.
You're so thrilled.
I'm so thrilled that I was really interested to see where you were going to put those books. I kind of assumed that's where Eye of the World and The Great Hunt would go, but man,
I loved it. It was a big
getting
jump.
Dragon Reborn up into your top tier. That is exciting for me. I'm very excited.
That sounds like an innuendo.
That's true. All right, so the next thing I'm going to go over. Okay, yeah. So Empire of Silence. This is the first book in the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio. It is a sci-fi space opera, and it follows a character named Hadrian Marlowe, and he's kind of writing his own story. We find out in the very beginning that he has destroyed his son and essentially killed an entire race of alien beings, and the story is him writing the story of how he came to be who he is, Hadrian Half-Mortal. And it's very, very good. It's the first book, I believe, by Christopher Rocchio, and it is impressively philosophical and well written. The prose is pretty dense, but it's very good and beautiful. And the story is somewhat slow, but it's still, grips you. And I'm very excited to continue this series. I'm in the second book of it right now. And I'm going to throw this in the A's. Where do I want to put it, though?
It's hard when you get this many.
It's pretty hard, yeah. This is a tough one. Then you have to have a
very good memory.
This is a tough one. I'm actually going to put it here. Yep, I liked it quite a bit. And then this is the first novella. There are lots of novellas and short stories in this world. This is The Lesser Devil, which follows, which is kind of takes place in between the first and second book and follows Hadrian, the main character's brother, Crispin. And I loved this, actually. I think I might like it more than Empire of Silence. Yeah, I blew through Lesser Devil, of course, because it was shorter, but I really liked The Lesser Devil. I thought it was very, very good. And that's, we have the same amount of books left. This is actually going to end almost exactly the same.
Are they your series, though? Because these are two series.
Yeah, I know. I can see that, but it'll be fine.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so my next is the first 3 books in the Zodiac Academy series. I started reading these during Halloween, wanting something kind of magical world-ish. They come very highly recommended by a few friends of mine. I also think, The Awakening? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
If they're not in the right order, just put
No, I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to read them to remember what the order was. It's about 2 twin sisters, which I love. I love strong females, and having 2 of them I think the Vega twins are the main characters in this series. The differences between the two twins is really beautiful, and their relationship together is really supportive and really, really fun. I don't feel like it was the greatest writing of all time, so I definitely would put it in the sexy but not amazing category, because they were definitely sexy and they get sexier. I'm very intrigued by this series, but I really didn't love any of these books yet. So I'm wondering...
I think it's crazy that you're still reading it and all of them are like not good. You're like, I don't like any of them.
It's not that I don't look at that. It's sexy but not amazing. It's not, I don't like it.
That's the second to lowest tier on your list. Regardless of how you phrase it, it's still not great.
It's still not great. It's still not the greatest book of all time. It doesn't mean I didn't enjoy my time reading it.
Okay.
I didn't love it. I didn't love I really liked the characters. I'm very intrigued by the magic system. I'm very intrigued to see where it goes. Maybe it will get better. I don't know. The writing felt very, for lack of a better word, basic. As in, like, the tropes that we went through, the romance, the way that, obviously, these kids are, like, 18, 19. It's supposed to be kind of like a magic college, which, again, why I keep reading it, because who doesn't want a magic college? Come on, and a sexy magic college. There's all kinds of interesting magical creatures, which I find really fun. I'm a little bit in it for the world. I'm in it for the main characters. I feel like you're probably going to read this for the spice.
Okay. All right. Oh, okay. So I'm doing my my manga now, I guess. So I read manga and manhwa usually once or twice a year. I'll get like the bug to read them. So I read 2 this year. One I just read, which was Solo Leveling. It's a Korean manhwa, and it is about a character who... it's very progression fantasy, just like Cradle, a character who is essentially like leveling up. There's a world where there are dungeons that manifest on Earth, and people go in and they have, power tiers essentially, and you have them when you are what's called awakened. You are assigned your power tier, and our main character becomes someone who can somehow level up, which no one else can do. And so it's just, a power fantasy type thing. I liked it, but unfortunately I felt like the ending really kind of fell a bit flat, so I'm going to put this at the bottom of B. Was not my favorite. And then I also read Haikyuu, which I may be pronouncing wrong, but I believe just means volleyball in Japanese. It is a sports manga following a high school volleyball team. And I love sports manga, and I love volleyball. I played it when I was growing up. This is one of the best manga I've ever read. I am obsessed with it, and it's gonna go in the S tier because I really, really, really liked it. I'm gonna put it at the bottom because I'm not sure how to even compare it to books, but I adored that series. All right, and your last 2.
My last 2. So these are Jenny Colgan novels. I'm really bad at it. These last 2 are 2 Jenny Colgan novels. She writes the coziest romances. Definitely more of a closed-door romance, not very spicy. Her books are usually one-offs, but in the same world. So you might get some other characters from some of her other novels, but you're not going to really delve into more of that world. Mainly in the same space. There's a lot of small towns, so obviously when it's a small town, a lot of the same characters. I read this first one. I finished it after Christmas last year. I started it around Christmas, finished it after Christmas. The Christmas bookshop, it was delightfully cute. It wasn't my favorite, mainly because of some of the tropes that were in it. And I felt sort of similarly about this one. But the second one, it's set in this adorable Scottish town in an old bookshop, very Hallmark movie-esque. I just didn't really love there's a lot of miscommunication trope going on, and I don't have a lot of patience for that. So, but I do love a Jenny Colgan novel. They are so delightfully cozy. If you want an easy, cozy romance, definitely Scottish romance. In Scotland, which that's definitely a vibe I want a lot of the times. Definitely check out her books.
All right, so let's get to my last 3.
Go.
So these are all standalones. So Yumi and the Nightmare Painter is the 3rd secret project by Brandon Sanderson. If you're not aware, Brandon Sanderson released wrote, I think, 4 or 5 books during the pandemic that he didn't tell anyone about. And then he turned it into this big thing. It was the highest grossing Kickstarter for a book, or maybe at all, of all time. Anyway, and so this was the 3rd of those books. I really liked it. It's an anime-inspired romance book. Brandon Sanderson doesn't really write romance, but it has all the other hallmarks of a Brandon Sanderson book, a fascinating world, great characters, and obviously an incredible and ingenious magic system, which literally included stacking rocks, and it was still interesting.
Wow.
It was nuts.
Wow.
I really liked this book. I gave it a 4.5 if I remember correctly. The only reason I didn't give it a 5 was because I had started reading actual romance books at this point, and the romance aspect of it fell a bit flat. I speak about that, I think, a little bit in one of our wrap-up videos, but yeah, I thought that was really funny. But yeah, I'm going to put this pretty high up. I actually really like this. Yeah, that feels good. And then the last 2 are by the same author, Emma Wang, or Emma Wang, I'm not sure. But this is Blood Over Brighthaven, which came out this year, and she... this is in a world she's never written in before, as far as I'm aware, and it was great. I read this entirely in one sitting.
Wow.
It follows a woman who is trying to become a scholar in a society that is entirely controlled by men, and no woman has become a top scholar before. It features a lot of interesting takes on oppression, both gender and racial or cultural, and it has a really cool, hard magic system that is like coding, which was really, really fun and inventive to read. And I devoured this book, absolutely devoured it. And yeah, this is actually going to go pretty high. And then Sword of Kaigen, which is one of the last books I read this year, is actually going to go even higher. Also by the same author, in a world that she had written in before, I think more YA books. But it's essentially the story of a town of people in a land that's kind of like feudal Japan with samurais and stuff, but the rest of the world is more the world is kind of left them behind. They're a bit isolated. They don't have cell phones or everything, but everyone else does. There's also a very cool magic system that I kind of think is very similar to Avatar: The Last Airbender, with a lot of elemental magic. And I'm going to actually put this all the way up here. This is one of the best. Both of those are two of the best standalone fantasy novels I have ever read. Wow. And I highly recommend both of them if you are interested in a fantasy, in a standalone novel. So yeah, those are all the books we read this year. Over 90 books, over 90 I think. So just a slow scroll through to see what each of us put on our lists. Iron Flame, rounding out the bottom.
Yeah, woof.
And there's Liz's.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for us. Thank you. For those of you who stuck with us
Thanks,
to the end,
dude.
Thank you for listening to us talk about some of the books that we read this year. This is maybe the last video we're going to put out this year. We might have another Percy Jackson episode discussion before the end of the year. I'm not sure. But yeah. For everyone who's watched us talk about books this year, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Please like and subscribe to see more videos about us talking about these books or others. We hope to see you in the new year. And
thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you on our next adventure.